And our kids are getting sicker and sicker. They're not getting better. Nobody here, all the people here who are defending this current system and defending these pharmaceutical industry profits, many of whom are taking huge amounts of money from the pharmaceutical industry, millions of dollars for many of these senators.
The RFK confirmation hearings, the MAHA movement, more broadly, I think you have an interesting perspective. Being a chef, working so intimately with food, obviously the food supply, I think, is one of the vectors that the MAHA movement is kind of most, I would say, on offense about, whether it's the depleted minerals in the soil or just the weird woke dietary guidelines and regulations that they're trying to push on us. I'm curious if you just want to kind of give the audience your perspective, your vantage point from the confirmation hearings that we've heard with respect to RFK Jr.
Well, first and foremost, I'm absolutely shocked that there is so much pushback when it comes to RFK, because I've been in this space now of kind of food systems and sustainability and obviously running restaurants for 10, 15 years. And it was 10 or 15 years ago when I started really talking about local food systems that the only support I actually got, funny enough, was from some of these kind of left-leaning hippies who were all about it. And now those same people are out there decrying RFK Jr. as a conspiracy theorist. So it's all just political talking points. This is the most bipartisan confirmation I think I've seen in at least a decade, and yet for some reason it's controversial. All he's asking for is that we actually break up the consolidated food manufacturers who are running our entire food system, quite literally, also on the restaurant side of things, and allow a lot of these small and local farmers to access the supply chain and to get people to understand why it's important to eat healthier food. Get a lot of these chemicals, which quite frankly are more medicine-like than they are food-like, out of our food system. And that doesn't necessarily mean by, unilateral decree or banning, but just the mere education will decrease the demand. I see it on the restaurant side because all we are forced through is, all that's forced on us are all of these processed, chemically laden foods in the form of rebates and subsidies that restaurateurs get up front, and then they have to buy through one of the three big distributors. And I've been fighting against that for years, which is why it's been somewhat of a grassroots movement on the chef side of things. And of course, all of these other chefs are now quiet about RFK because all of the propaganda has hit the airwaves. But he's just trying to get people good, healthy food and allow us as chefs and foodies to access that in a much easier manner. I'm also a father of four. I've got 4 kids. So this vaccine issue is also really important to me. We've moved our kids out of the public school system because we weren't going to subject them to the crazy litany of vaccines that are out there. I've already got one child who did have a vaccine injury, and we know exactly what it's like. But for us to just say, hey, maybe we should look at this, and to have people call me a conspiracy theorist for asking questions is absurdity at its peak. It's the apex of absurdity. So I'm really vested in this, obviously, but it's pretty simple. And if you think about it, it's very, very bipartisan, but it's just another example of the way in which the propaganda machine, in conjunction with big government and, of course, big media, comes together to try and brainwash Americans.
Well, there's such an interesting bifurcation, I think, between food and medicine, where despite all these Democrat senators who look like they could use a walk or a workout lecturing us about how they really, really care about health, they just don't like how RFK is going about it. But I think you hit the nail on the head, how food and food systems and food supply chains are such a critical part of all of this. I'm curious, from your sort of insider experience, I think most restaurateurs, chefs, in some capacity are involved in, whether it's the trade or industry associations that obviously don't represent consumers, don't represent families, don't represent the average American citizen. What do you think the pressure is right now on a lot of these senators to vote against him? What does sort of that whipping of votes, the pressure campaigns coming from Big Pharma or people like Mike Pence who are getting a bunch of money to shill against RFK, in your sort of experience, what do you think that is looking like behind the scenes?
Well, that's what I keep talking about. It's all about special interest money, right? So we see it on the restaurant side of things because all these massive food manufacturers, they pump so much money into the supply chain through the massive distributors and then ultimately to the chefs to say, look, if you commit to buying this product and here's all the fake health benefits of it, we're going to give you $50,000 up front in the form of a rebate, which is really just them giving you the money, and then you pay double the amount back over a certain period of time. And they know that restaurateurs are strapped with cash because it's the most margin tight industry. So they use that money to manipulate the chefs to try and control the consumer base to manage what they consider to be trends. And what I think is hilarious is that, let's use seed oils as an example. Over the past 3 to 4 years, suddenly talking about seed oils is conspiratorial, right? It's a right-wing conspiracy to say that you don't want seed oils. And you actually now have left-wing influencers who know nothing about health going out there and saying, oh yeah, I'm going to chug my canola oil, or I'm going to, there's nothing wrong with Coke. And now they're fitness experts. That's what I love about this. I've been doing this my whole life. And now, every Twinkie on the left is a fitness expert. It's like, first of all, you're a barrel-chested freak and you have absolutely no idea what you're talking about, but you're just being paid from an influencer side of things. Now extrapolate that across a massive industry, restaurants and food service, and you've got chefs and general managers and restaurant owners who are taking that same money and they're saying, yeah, we're going to use soybean oil. We're only going to use canola oil. And why would I use butter, or why would I use healthy fats? That's a bad thing. And then their customers hear that and they say, the local restaurant, that chef and restaurant owner said it was a bad thing, and therefore he's an expert. Now, you can take what they're doing in food service, now apply that to medicine, right? And doctors are the chefs, or, nurses, they're the chefs in this world. And everybody looks to them as the experts. So it's all about that money coming down, right? Hitting the people who need it. Politicians, the lobbyists know what buttons to push, and then chefs, restaurateurs, and you can extrapolate this also into fitness and so many other industries. And then that money talks, and it goes right back up to the top, and then it comes back out. And where you see it being distilled is on the distribution into kids' school foods, right? Subsidies and what they're being fed is disgusting, and that's why kids are sick. And then when you see SNAP benefits, you see people getting food stamps, and all they're getting is bags of Doritos and Coke and all of this bad food. And I'm not saying we should ban any of that. Don't get me wrong. I love a Diet Coke from time to time, and I'll crush some Doritos. But if you're using taxpayer dollars, right, to support these big food manufacturers only to make people and especially kids sick, well, that's a broken system. I would much rather, if those dollars are going to be spent, I'd much rather see them spent to support small farmers, independent farmers who are producing good meat, regenerative agriculture, things that are actually perpetuating a much healthier ecosystem and encouraging the biodiversity of our ecosystem, as opposed to ripping it apart with GMOs, just monocropping and subsidies that ruin our soil.
It's the new, 2025 version of bread in circuses, except the circuses are a lot worse, and who knows what's in the bread that they're trying to feed us. Chef Andrew Gruel, I think you're the first chef I've interviewed, hopefully not the last time. I know you've got a wonderful book about making food, being in the kitchen, something that you can do with your wonderful family. Give us a little 30-second plug on that and how people can stay up to date with everything you're working on.
Yeah, this is our family cookbook. So this is about getting people in the kitchen. It's real simple. It's approachable. It's easy. No seed oils. Because in the kitchen, that's where people come together. We've lost community, and we've lost kind of our moral North Star as well. And I say that happens when family sits around the table. Food is the great unifier. You can get our cookbook at andrewcookbook.com. It's really simple. It's a partnership with Brave Books, which is a wonderful company, publishing company as well, with good morals and good values. And that's what this cookbook is all about. Let's just get into the kitchen, knock down some of those barriers, and even just cooking more, one more time a week with your family will make a huge difference in everybody's life.